This is Free Speech News, and it is March 17th, 2021, and a little update about election integrity as coming from the Gateway Pundit per Georgia Star News. The judge in Georgia did in fact agree to unseal ballots for Favorito's team to be inspected and investigated to make sure that the ballots are correct. And Garland Favorito is the one who has been on top of this. And his foundation, Voter GA, has been on top of this. And from affidavits of people that's seen perfect ballots without creases that are supposed to be coming from envelopes. Also, when they ran ballots through the machines, they got a different result than what they hand counted. So he kept pursuing this about wanting to look at the ballots, and the judge has finally agreed. So this is big news for election integrity and dealing with the 2020 election. And we will have to see how it goes from there. And we'll have to see if there's fair people that are going to look over these ballots. And if that happens, then whatever evidence they find, or whatever they do find, nobody is going to deny it. These are raw ballots. They are going to take a look at, and when the results come out, it cannot be questioned. And remember, in Arizona, we have the 2.1 million ballots being inspected and machines being inspected as we speak. So we have that case there. Also, in a county in New Hampshire, we have ballots being inspected and machines being inspected as well. So let's not forget about them. And this is all starting to come out. And I know all these reports about they have not seen direct evidence yet. But they will soon see all the evidence they need to see. And I cannot wait for this report to come out, and I'll be looking forward to it. Also, dealing with the election of 2020, we have coming out per Breitbart, as a Michigan court has ruled last week that Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Democrat, broke state law when she unilaterally issued rules related to absentee balloting, legitimizing a key claim that the Trump team made in its legal challenges. And like I said before, this is huge, and it is all going to come out. Now, Benson had issued several unilateral orders during the 2020 election, including sending every single registered voter a ballot and issuing guidance on how to evaluate these ballots. And those orders were said to violate the state's administrative procedure ruled by Michigan Court of Claims Judge Christopher Murray. And for all those people who don't know, and for the people that said rule changes didn't matter, Benson, the guidance said that slightly similar signatures on absentee ballots should lean in favor of making them valid. If that's not breaking the rules, I do not know what is. And you can even say it is cheating by telling the counters that you are training to basically accept signatures even if they look the same, even if you cannot match them. I mean, are you kidding me? Does this make sense to you at all? Is this making sure that every ballot is a legal one? And in the court's opinion, it said that nowhere in the state's election law have the legislator indicated that signatures are to be presumed valid, and that these changes should be made pursuant to properly promulgated rules under APA or the legislature. So there is a ruling for the people that say Trump did not win. How many ballots would this have affected? And this is obviously not a Trump case, but this is the same thing that the Trump team was arguing in the 2020 election. And here we are with this ruling in favor of that. And the truth continues to come out. And I want to move on to the Biden administration. Now, coming again from the Gateway Pundit, we have breaking news as U.S. convoy of trucks is entering northern Syria, coming from reports from Syria itself. And this is not surprising for the Biden administration to do this. If you look at the Obama years and their policy towards the Middle East, with everything that happened in Libya, and now that country is a complete disaster and a breeding ground for terrorists. They tried to get Assad out of power. And we see the same things starting to happen again. And if this report turns out to be true, and the local news in Syria reported that a new convoy of roughly 45 trucks, which were loaded with boxes, military vehicles, and fuel tankers, entering near northern Iraq. So what the hell is going on here? What is the reasoning for this? And why has there been no mention of this from the Biden administration? And why are we endangering our troops in Syria? And my guess is they are going to fund the rebels to try to take down Assad. But we have Russia, who is strongly supporting Assad as well. And here we are yet again, getting involved in wars that we do not need to be in the first place. Looking at the wrong country to worry about completely. And now we have huge news as it begins to emerge that the border crisis is a lot worse than we ever thought. As apparently the Biden administration has been hiding the real numbers. And we know the initial numbers we were told were around 4,200. And as CBS says, that there is more than 13,000 children in U.S. custody. And these are children that have no parents, and they are all by themselves.
Joining us, we're going to begin with a humanitarian crisis on the southern border that is growing larger and more dire by the day. Tonight, we have got the stunning new numbers. Sources tell CBS News more than 13,000 migrant children who entered the country without their parents are now in U.S. custody. The government says even more adults are being turned back every day. The Secretary of Homeland Security admitting today that so many people are now crossing the border, his department is on pace to stop more migrants than in the past 20 years. And with so many children, including toddlers, now flooding into the country, CBS News has learned the Biden administration is running out of space to house them and people to process their claims. Now, President Biden said today he has no plans to visit the border right now. And DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says while the situation is difficult, his department is tackling it. But critics of Mr. Biden, including Republicans in Congress, are blaming the president tonight for rolling back the strict border policies of the Trump administration. We've got a lot of new reporting on this, along with some important headlines on 2 coronavirus vaccines. Our team is standing by. CBS's Maria Villarreal is going to lead off our coverage tonight from the southern border in Texas. Good evening, Maria.
Good evening, Nora. Right now, CBS has learned that unaccompanied minors on average are being held in facilities like this one for 120 hours. That breaks down to 5 days and well over what the law allows of 72 hours. The Biden administration is calling this a challenge, but local law enforcement officers that we embedded with say this is an absolute crisis. Desperation and frustration growing as groups flow into the U.S. Deputy Ruben Salinas handles his regular duties during the day and patrols the banks of the Rio Grande River at night.
We average about 300.
An historic number of migrants crossing into the U.S. illegally, creating an overwhelming need for more help in the Rio Grande Valley.
Now, remember that because I want to know where all these kids are going to go. How in the world is this helping these kids? Having them go through all this, coming up to the border in the first place, and then we are going to send these uneducated kids to group homes who can barely speak English, and then we want to throw them in school where they are completely behind. And then what happens? They turn to gangs or they turn to crime. And a lot of these kids will and already have been human trafficked. And these kids, they do get raped. They do get beat. And a lot more. 13,000 kids with no parents. And where are their parents? Did they get paid to send their kids to the border so they could be exploited? Because I don't understand what kind of parent. I just don't understand, even though these kids were in bad situations, how you could just send your kid away like that by himself, knowing he's going to go through some stuff, knowing that he's going to be in bad conditions or way worse. And also, these drug cartels are profiting and benefiting from what is happening right now. And the Biden administration is the one to blame for this. And this is not going to make these kids better. And Joe Biden himself isn't even going to visit the border at this moment.
Southern border, sir?
Not at the moment.
Have you decided when you're able to share thoughts with other countries? Is it allies or neighbors first? Who will be the first country to get U.S. vaccines?
I've been talking with several countries already. Well, I'll let you know that very shortly.
I mean, honestly, does Joe Biden even have a clue of what's going on our border? Because I really don't think he does. And it's obvious that Biden is not running the show at all. That's why there is always someone standing behind him. So he doesn't answer questions, he doesn't talk too much, and he doesn't reveal what the true mission is. So this is an extreme crisis that is going on right now. And these kids are in trouble. And Biden hasn't helped them. They just want the votes. And that's all they care about, even if it hurts these kids. And we'll have to keep an eye on this as it continues to get out of control. And now we have breaking news involving the Wuhan lab in China, as Senator Joni Ernest told Breitbart News on Wednesday that the federal government has been providing funding to the Wuhan Institute of Virology for researching bat coronaviruses. And, federal government did provide. And through researchers, Senator Ernest said that they have discovered through NIH that the government had grant dollars that went to the Wuhan Institute. And she continued to say that it was subsidized by U.S. taxpayers and that she was going to Health and Human Services Office of the Inspector General to investigate and get to the bottom of it. I mean, this is huge news to me, that our U.S. government was funding the Wuhan lab for the research of the very thing that escaped from the lab to begin with. Even though it hasn't been confirmed, and the WHO is investigating where the virus came in China, but we know that China has already cleaned all that evidence up. And we had U.S. diplomats warning about the dangers of this institute. And yes, it obviously came from this lab. And remember, as far as funding goes, we have reports of Fauci directly involved in donating to the Wuhan Institute. And no doubt that this virus came from this lab. The question is, was it intentional? And if you look at everything that has happened, the only country to gain in their economy to get bigger and stronger was that country of China. That country where this virus came from. They are the only country to benefit. So that is not coincidence. And we'll see what the WHO has to say. And I want to move on again to election integrity, as what do we have here? We have when Republicans want to contest the election, then it is a problem. But here we have in Iowa's 2nd congressional district, Nancy Pelosi, since the election ended, has been pushing for the results to be overturned. Per Breitbart report, the House Administration Committee, chaired by Representative Zoe Lofgren, a Democrat out of California, per this Breitbart report, the House Administrative Committee, chaired by the Democrat representative out of California, has been claiming that not all of the ballots have been counted. And he says that the American people deserve to know who actually won this election. And the challenger says that 22 legal votes should have been counted, but they were tossed out. And it was a race that was won by only 6 votes. So once again, we see the hypocrisy of the Democrats, as it's okay for them to question election results. But when it comes to we the people, or to the Trump administration, it was a problem. We can't even question the results. We can't even talk about the results, but yet we have this. And it's been swept under the rug. I guarantee you not a lot of people know about this. And not only that, but we have Rodney Davis from Illinois pointed out that the Miller-Meeks election included a recount, a canvass, which the challenger, Hart, could have appealed, but chose not to. Why would he not use that? Why would he not use the challenge or use the appeal process to try to challenge the results? But he didn't. Because she was not going to win. But just the simple fact of Nancy Pelosi trying to overturn this, but yet there was no fraud anywhere else or in the presidential election. This is a joke. These people are a joke. And we have to get America First people in the office. We have to get people that are for the American people and not for the establishment and not for the elite. So we got to keep on spreading the truth and keep on exposing the corrupt.
This was a Free Speech News broadcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep the faith.